What's up, Dunwoody? Welcome back to the podcast. It's all about Dunwoody, Georgia. I'm your host, Matt Weber. Show's brought to you by Village Orthodontics. You know Village Orthodontics, Tom?
I do.
Yeah. It's a good
It's
place.
been a long time since I've worn braces, but
Yeah.
I'm familiar with Village Orthodontics. Yes.
Yeah. And your kids are past that point now, so
They are.
That's good. So Tom is our city council representative for District. What is that? Three. District 3. Okay. And the districts. So let's go over that real quick. So the districts, I think this is really interesting, goes from east to west, or west to east, and 1, 2, and 3, right?
Correct. Yeah, we have 3 districts. Basically,
you're on the east side.
Yeah, if the city, if you kind of made it into a rectangle, you just kind of divided it in 3. So District 3 is the easternmost portion. District 2 is the central, and District 1 would be over on the east side. And each district has 2 council representatives. One is the local representative, which is what I am. I'm the local representative for District 3, and the other is the at-large. And what the difference is on election day, the local representative is only the people that live in that district get to vote for that person and choose their representative. The at-large, the entire city votes for each. So this year actually is an election year. The mayor position is on the ballot, as well as the 3 at-large council positions. So what that means is that on election day this year, every citizen will get to vote for every council position as well as the mayor. So and we do it, a staggered cycle. So in 2 years, it'll be the local seats. So there'll be 3 city council representatives on the ballot in 2 years from now. But only the people that live in that district get to vote. So you live in District 3, so you would have the option for voting for my seat.
I know.
And but only that. So you wouldn't get to vote for the representatives in District 1 or District 2. So and I think that's a good mix of representation. Even though we're in districts, I don't think any of us are territorial. I think we all look at the totality of the city and try and do what's best for Dunwoody as a whole. But it's nice to have that local person that you can call if you've got a personal issue, like, hey, how do I get this fixed?
And you and John are some pretty good ones for our east side, so we appreciate.
Yeah, thanks, appreciate it. We really try to be responsive and respond to the needs that come to us. So it's good. It's good. It's a good system, and it's working well.
Yeah. Well, let's get straight into the trails, Tom. That's what you're here for. That passed last night. The master plan passed last night, and then the bonds. Can you tell us a little bit about both of those things?
Yeah. So
wherever you want to start. I know it's a big thing, and I know that this is going to be a huge deal over the next 6 months or so.
Yeah, absolutely. Why. Yeah, last night was a really important night for the future of the city, and two big momentous things that we put a lot of work into and were years coming. So the first thing is the Trail Master Plan. And I'll say this: that the trail plan and the bonds are somewhat related, but they are 2 different things. So I'll talk about the trail plan first. Since incorporation, every survey that the city's done, every plan that the city's put together has identified trails as a priority and as something that the residents want. But up until last night, we never had an official plan to address that. And if you can't just call something a priority and then it's a priority. You've actually got to put the effort in and dedicate resources to that. So that's why it was real important to put together a comprehensive plan. And I think the benefit of the plan is, there's a lot of benefits, but what it does is it is put together a network of trails. The real goal was to identify destinations, right? So rather than just building trails for the sake of building trails, where are people trying to get to? So, the village or the parks or the churches or the schools and things like that. So, and then figuring out and then also connecting all of the neighborhoods to those trails to get you to those destinations. So, it was a lot of work. There are challenges that Dunwoody has that some other communities don't have, in the fact that we're built out. So it's not like we've got a blank slate and can just put a trail wherever we want. We've got to kind of thread the needle through neighborhoods and be sensitive to the needs of those communities and the people that live there. But having that plan in place is huge. And an important thing, because there's been some understanding about this a little bit, or people weren't quite sure, is that the plan we approved last night is a vision document. So master plans, it's the 50,000 foot view. It's basically, this is what we aspire to be. This is where we want to go to. And so it creates those networks that I just talked about. And but it is not a construction ready document. Okay, it's a roadmap on how to get there. So
So don't start sending letters to you yet?
So approving the plan, we did not approve a single foot of trail for construction. We didn't allocate a single dollar to building those trails. What it was is that this is the vision. This is what we aspire to be. It's going to take 20 to 30 years to build out, and during that time we'll do updates. So because the city evolves, things change, and 10 years from now, what seems great today might not be the most important thing, or maybe there's a new opportunity to do something over there. So we'll revisit, and that's the cycle of master plans, and that's how they work, and it's a good way to revisit and kind of check, checkpoints to say, okay, yeah, how are we doing? Where do we need to go? So there are segments on that on the trail plan that, I'll be honest, they may never be built because of just the barriers are too big or the cost might be too much. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't have that on there, because hey, maybe an opportunity presents itself, and wow, this thing that we thought was impossible, wow, this can really happen. So having that there and being able to look at that and check in on it, I think is a good thing. And another thing too is that I think is important about the trail plan is prior to this, we've built trail segments. You can't build a trail system all at once, right? You got to build it piece by piece. But sometimes by doing that, if you just build a small section of trail and people don't see the big vision, they're like, well, what the heck? A good example is Winter's Chapel. We started building that segment at the borderline, and that's really the first piece of an east to west continuous trail that'll go through, I think, 7 city parks and connect all of these different neighborhoods along the way, basically connecting the eastern part of Dunwoody all the way over to the perimeter. But when people look and say, well, why'd you build this little half-mile section
like
of
a trail
that
to
doesn't go
nowhere?
anywhere?
Yeah.
Well, so now we can point to the trail plan and say, well, listen, that's the first segment, and then it's going to continue down, and it's going to turn right here, and it's going to connect to Brook Run, and it's going to connect all the way over to the perimeter. And then once you get to the perimeter, so the trail plan is two important things. It's about this, and the most important thing is the destinations within the city. So you want to get to the village, you want to get to Brook Run, you want to get to City Hall or the library or Spruill or whatever it is. And making those connections, but it's also about regional connections as well. That Dunwoody, we're very fortunate. We are geographically situated right in the middle of everything, and that as a realtor, right? I mean,
Yeah.
location, right? And with trails, we are really in a great position to be kind of a regional hub for all of these other local trail systems that are popping up. And so we looked not only what we wanted to connect to within the city, but how do we get connectivity to some of these other trail systems. So Path 400, which is coming up through Sandy Springs, right through the perimeter, and so basically you can hook up with Path 400, and that could take you all the way down to the Beltline. There's plans for trails through Peachtree Corners and Sandy Springs on the eastern part, the panhandle of Sandy Springs, that'll connect over to the Chattahoochee Riverlands trail system. So you could ride and get up to the Chattahoochee River. And there's actually now connections for the Silver Comet and the Beltline in the works. So in theory, you could pull out of your driveway, not tomorrow, but when all these trail systems are built, and ride all the way to the Alabama state line on your bike. So so it's real exciting to think about the possibilities. It's going to take a long time to get there. That's just the nature of it. Funding, logistics, and all of those things that are a part of it. But
they're all going through the same thing we are. Chamblee and Brookhaven and Sandy Springs. I guess maybe not Doraville, but
yeah, no, and I think DeKalb County is looking at a countywide trail system as well to try and connect the cities there. So there's a lot of talk of trails. There's a very good reason. I mean, all the benefits of trails. I mean, I could talk for an hour about it, and I won't. But
yeah.
But it's the amenity that the people want now, and for good reason. It's public health. It's bringing, the number one thing that you can do to build community is have walkability, and so that's really what we're focused on. And I think it's real important that we now have a plan, because that's the first step, right? So journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step. Well, a network of 60 miles of trails starts with approving the plan, right? And so so we're there, and now the hard work starts. Now we got to start focusing on prioritizing segments and figuring out how to get it built.
Well, where are those segments? That's what people want to hear. We were talking about before the show, before we started recording, that the minute you look at that map, you say, "Where's my house on that map?" Right there, like what's around me. So yeah, tell people what those hot spots are, those segments are.
So what we're trying to do is so what we've done is there was a lot of different things that are somewhat related, but not intrinsically related is going on at the same time. And one of the other things that we were doing is we had a citizens advisory committee that was looking at all of our capital projects throughout the city, that parks, transportation, and trails, and they were trying to help prioritize that for us because. When it comes to building the trails, there's really a lot of considerations because of some of the challenges. The first and foremost is what are the most important destinations to get to, and so that's what we're trying to identify first. And then, but each of those trail segments has unique challenges that we're going to need to overcome. And I know that I made this point last night when we were discussing the trail plan is that we had a lot of public input on the trails. A lot of people spoke in favor of it, and there were people that voiced concerns. But the one thing to me that resonated was nearly every single person that raised concerns about the trail plan said, "I'm in favor of trails,
but not in my backyard."
And so that's the challenge for us. That's where the hard work comes in, because I think what that tells you is that people recognize the value of trails, but they're concerned how it's going to impact them personally. And so the city has no intention of just blindly marching down through people's front yards with bulldozers without any concern. I mean, that's not at all what we want to do. So what we need to do is, as we identify a segment that we're going to work on, we're going to go through the process that we do through all of our projects. So there'll be engineering involved. There'll be plenty of opportunity for public engagement and for the community to voice their opinion for or against. And that's where the hard work comes in, is of sitting down. The most important thing is going to be communication from the city, being completely transparent, providing as much information to the entire city, and in particular to the residents that might be most impacted by some of these projects, and saying, listen, this is what we're planning to do. And then the important, there's two parts of communication. There's the talking part, which people always know about talking, but the most important part in this process is going to be the listening part, where the city genuinely listens to the people that have concerns and drills down and say, what are the real issues here? What are your biggest concerns? And then try to find solutions to that. And I'm an optimist by nature. And I think that if both sides are willing to have an honest dialogue, that we can find solutions to a lot of the concerns that people have. And I say that because I've experienced that. And I've been in the council for 6 years and had a lot of opportunity to interact with the public. I've had situations where there were city projects that the community had a lot of concerns about and were opposed to. But if you meet with them and you genuinely listen and you work through those issues, and by the end of it, not only do they no longer have those concerns, but they're excited about the project. And I'm hopeful that we can get there with a lot of these trail segments. I'm not naive. I think there's still going to be sections that are going to present challenges, and we'll have to make those decisions when we get there. But I don't think you discount a whole trail plan just because of concerns here and there. We're going to have to do the hard work. We're going to have to get down in the mud and get dirty and make some difficult decisions. But as long as all parties are willing to work together, then I don't think there's anything we can't overcome.
Yeah. Well, tell us where the segments are. That's enough disclaimers, Tom, to tell me if they're going to be in my backyard.
So there's nothing in your backyard.
What are the ones that you found that are most important? Who is it? The Citizens Committee, the working group? Where did they find the most important trails would be? The hot spots?
So what we're doing, so the most the trail segments that we have identified as the priorities are the Dunwoody Village corridor. And to be clear, that would be on Chamblee Dunwoody Road, not through the village itself, not through the private property in the village. Basically extending from Womack Road near the library and the Sproul Arts Center, up Chamblee Dunwoody through the village, and up all the way up to Roberts Drive Park. And that's a
good one.
It's been identified as a priority for a number of reasons. First of all, you just look, obviously you've got the library and the art center and the theater and a park and a school, as well as the village, all on that route. So a lot of attractive destinations for people. It connects to a lot of different neighborhoods. And you know this as well as anyone, Matt. I mean, the village is kind of the emotional heart of the city. There's limits to what the city can do because it's private property as far as getting what everybody would love to see there. But what we're doing is focusing on the things we can do. So, we've done a lot of things in the village. We created the entertainment district to make it easier for people to go down there, and if they wish to have a cocktail or a beer and to walk around with that and to create that kind of vibe there. We rezoned it to tell developers, listen, this is what we want to see here, and make it easy for them. So now they don't have to come. If they build what we've asked them to build, then they can go ahead and do that. And now we're putting the infrastructure in place around the city. So that's why this
That's a good one.
Is real important. And it's there's rendering. The project's online. You can go and kind of look at the initial renderings of it. It'll be a game changer in the village. I think it'll be real important. So that's the first one. We have. I talked to Winter's Chapel. We began building a segment of a trailway on Winter's Chapel, and phase 1 is wrapping up. They're doing the landscaping now. We're going to continue phase 2, and that's going to take it down to Peeler Road, and that'll eventually connect wrap around Peeler to Wynwood Hollow Park and all the way down to Brook Run Park.
Towards Peachtree Corners, yeah.
Yep, and that's good too. That's going to create a lot of great connectivity for the Fontainebleau neighborhood, for Lockridge Forest, and all the neighbors that live over there, down to the shopping, over to parks, and really to the rest of Dunwoody, as well as, we're working with our friends in the Peachtree Corners to find ways that, there's not a direct connection there, but they're building a Crooked Creek Trail off there. It's a little disconnected, but we're going to hopefully try to find a way that we can connect with them. So, North Peachtree Road, this I think is an important project. That's
most important to me, I think.
Yeah, it's a gateway into the city, first and foremost, coming off of 285. That's your introduction to Dunwoody. But why this is important is there are 2 schools on that route, Chestnut and Peachtree Middle School. There are a lot of students that walk to those schools from the Dunwoody Village Apartments, from the Dunwoody North neighborhood, from the other apartments in the area, and so having a safe way for those kids to get to school is a priority. It's safer out of school.
Not super safe right now.
It really isn't.
There could be some stuff done.
It really isn't. So having wider sidewalks that are separated from the road, and maybe doing some things to calm the traffic in the area to slow down cars, that'll be real important for the city. And that segment of trail will also connect to Brook Run Park as well, which Brook Run is kind of going to be a hub for the trail system, because a lot of the trail systems connect to the existing trail at Brook Run and Pernishaw. So that's an important, real important segment as well. And then Mount Vernon Road is the other one we've identified. You've got
parade route.
The parade route, absolutely. I think you know a little bit about something about the parade, don't you?
That would be awesome. Have a big trail right next to it.
It would be terrific.
Think about how many lawn chairs you can fit on that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. No, it would be terrific for the parade, no doubt. But I think 365 days a year, it's a smart piece, because
that's where you see people walking already.
All the time.
All around Dunwoody, that's where you see the most people walking, I feel like.
It's the perfect place for a trail for a number of reasons. First of all, the destinations it connects. Somebody mentioned in our citizen advisory committee, the barbell effect, where you have 2 big destinations at either end. Well, you got the Williamsburg Shopping Center, East 48th Street, and all that stuff going on there. And then at the other end, you have the Dunwoody Village. And then so many neighborhoods along Mount Vernon would be able to feed into that trail system. And why it's also a good trail segment is it sits on a ridge line. So it's very flat, and it's very easy for even a novice biker or an out of shape guy like me to be able to ride that comfortably, rather than trying to go up a hill with a grade like that and everything. So it just makes a lot of sense, and it provides great east-west connectivity across the city. And then it could also get you down into the perimeter, because so those are some of the projects we're focusing on. We're also focusing, and I want to be clear, on the perimeter center. We have the Ashford Dunwoody commuter trail. We broke ground on the first segment down in front of the mall, and that's basically going to go all the way from 285 all the way up, or right there at the corner of the mall, Hammond Drive, all the way up to Mount Vernon as well. Some small segments of that have already been built by development. The public shopping center, when they went in, they built the trailway in front of that development as part of the condition of zoning. And there's a really tiny section in front of Lazy Dog as well. But we're gonna focus on getting that connectivity there in the perimeter area as well. That's real important. So there are
is the master plan up online?
Yes, the master plan is online. You can go and view that on the city website. Just look up Dunwoody Trailway Master Plan, and it'll be there.
Well, let's that's a good segue into how are you going to pay for all this,
How
Tom?
about it, huh? So I want to be clear that these are two related but very separate topics.
Right.
And so, but the city for the past really couple of years has been trying to identify priorities for our capital projects. We started with a list of well over 100 capital projects, and that can be a little bit overwhelming, right? It's kind of like when you look at your honeydew list at the house, right? And it's like I got to do it. It's like, oh my god, I got so many things, they end up doing nothing, right? So
Yeah.
so what we thought was important was to start to prioritize our list, and it's been a long process. We began um, back in 2020 with a capital improvement plan and what the purpose of that was is to come up with a 5-year plan of saying, hey, here's the resources we have available. These are the projects we're planning to fund with those resources. So, and that's available for the public to view. So it's very transparent for the public. They can say, hey, here's where our tax dollars are going. Here's where the money is being spent. And that was a very important first step because we never had a capital plan before that.
Mhm.
Out of that, we decided, hey, listen, we've got a really, really long list. We got to start to prioritize these. So it began with the city council, and the city council, we each individually ranked all of these projects, sent it in to staff, and they kind of compiled it into one. Okay, here's what the city council feels are the most important projects. And we at the 2022 city council retreat, so last year, we kind of um, discuss those projects and those priorities, and that was really when the first idea of a bond. And I'll do the finance 101 part in a second, but um, we're a bond to pay for these projects. So we came back from the retreat and we started to socialize that. We had some community meetings. We established a city council committee to identify their priorities, and through that process, we realized it was really important for the city to get feedback from the residents. What are the most important things to the people that live here? What do they identify as the most important projects? So the mayor set up a special ad hoc citizens committee, the Citizens Capital Advisory Committee. She asked me to chair that, which I was happy to do because I thought this was real important. And
More work.
yeah, but important work. And rewarding work.
Yeah.
And so we met. We began meeting last September. Had our final meeting the end of April. Met 6 times over those 8 months, and did a really really deep dive. We evaluated every project that the city has on a list, and I'll say this: I'm incredibly proud of the residents that served on that committee. We had 9 residents serving on that committee. They may not have known exactly what they were signing up for when they
Yeah.
agreed to be on it.
Did they
But
think they were getting paid or something? It
yeah.
does seem like a lot of work.
Yeah, but they really they took the job seriously. I think they recognized the importance of it, and they did a great job. I mean, we assigned homework at every meeting. We did field trips. I mean, we took the job very seriously because this is really the launching point for all the things that we're hoping to do in the very near future, and we wanted to make sure we got it right. And so through that process, we distilled a list of over 100 projects down to the 9 projects that we felt that the citizens felt that the residents felt were the most important. And so then the question becomes, well, how do we pay for that?
Yeah.
And just to pause for a second, there were 5 parks projects and 4 trail segments. 4 trail segments, and the 4 trail segments are the ones
We got
that I
those.
just talked about. The park projects are the currently named Roberts Drive Park. We have yet to figure out a new name for that park. We'll figure that out soon. The Vermack Park site, which has now been renamed Homecoming Park. Waterford Park, um, building a softball complex, and doing some improvements to Brook Run Park. Some relative we've done the heavy lifting at Brook Run. Basically, what we're planning to do is build a bathroom that will serve the dog park and the community garden, and put an extra pavilion back by the Treetop Quest. So not a
Well,
lot of
let me stop you there. So Brook Run is the reason that I believe in this bond because I'm there all the time. I just love Brook Run. So it seems like, and you did that with, I think the last bit was like $9 million. So I think if you have a little bit of money, you can do some really cool stuff.
Yeah, so one of the things that we're trying to do too is Brook Run doesn't have to be the end all be all, right? So we have all
Yeah.
these we've been able to acquire new park properties across the city, and that's good for two reasons. First of all, it provides greater access for our residents. So someone that lives up in the Austin neighborhood, they don't have to get in their car and drive to Brook Run. They've got a park that they can walk to and enjoy. And so having that, and I think we've done a really good job of identifying areas of need for green space and finding park property there that we can develop. So so that's one thing. And then the other thing is you don't want to wear out one piece of property. So if you've been to Brook Run on a Saturday when there's events going on and there's soccer games going on, that's a bustling hub of activity, and you don't want to over program that park because you start to lose some of the value and some of the enjoyability of that property, and quite frankly, you just wear out the facilities as well. So having more facilities spread out across the city. We just opened a brand new park over in the perimeter area, Two Bridges Park, city's first splash pad. It's been a huge hit. And it was important because we have a lot of residents that live in that perimeter area. They had no park, so now they do, and that was an important thing for us. So the parks that we've identified are really, Austin serves the north.
I think
northeast,
those are good ones.
Yeah, northeast part of the Roberts Drive Park. Vermack's kind of south central. Waterford's kind of northeast. We have not yet determined the place for the softball complex. That's something we are working on. We need to find the right location for that, but I'm confident we'll get there as well. So that was real important for us, and we actually have master plans for those parks that have already been approved by council. So if anyone wants to look and see what we have in mind, but there's a lot of great things coming with those parks. So,
so that seems like a lot of money.
It is a lot of money. So once we figured out the list. So the first step was what's most important? What do we want to build? And so that we got that list of 9 projects. And all right, now how much is that going to cost? So then we went and we had staff evaluate those projects, and we've done some preliminary work on some of them as far as planning. And so the dollar figure that we came back was $60 million. So that's a lot of money. It's not just sitting in the general operating budget. Ready to access. So there's a lot of different ways that cities can finance projects, and so the next thing was we did the deep dive. And all right, so what is the most appropriate way to do that? And I kind of did the whole municipal finance 101 thing at the city council meeting last night, so I won't rehash that whole thing. If people are really interested, they can call me or they can go and watch the video. But ultimately, what it came down to is the most effective way to do that is to issue a bond. And so basically, the simple way of describing a bond is it's the city issuing debt. It's kind of similar to a family that wants to buy a house, right? It's a large capital. That's a large expense. It's a high dollar item. Most people don't have that money just sitting around in their bank account. So you go and you get a mortgage and you pay it out over a number of years, and that's how you're able to afford those things. It's the same thing with a bond and with cities.
It's a good analogy, Tom. Did I say something?
No, I had a phone call come in. I'm only doing this on my phone, and a phone call came in. So apologize for that.
That's all right.
But where was I at?
You said a mortgage.
Yeah,
I think that's
analogy.
That's a good analogy, I think.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and that's really what it is. And some people, we've heard some comments that people are concerned that should the city be issuing debt, but that's really how local governments fund projects, because they don't have large dollar, just like the homeowner doesn't have that money sitting around to go buy a house. Cities don't have millions and millions of dollars sitting in their operating budget ready to spend on projects. So, according to the National League of Cities, I've done a lot of homework on this. I've done a lot of homework on this. 70% of local government projects are funded through bonds. That's basically how government projects are built. So we're not doing anything radical or unprecedented here. This is how things get done. And this
is how cities around us are doing it too, right? And
absolutely.
Roswell and Sandy Springs.
Yeah, Roswell.
Sandy Springs needs any.
Yeah, they're doing pretty well over there. But yeah, a lot of our neighbors have already issued bonds to get projects completed, and that's how it's done. And it makes sense if you think about it. So if we were, let's say we had $60 million sitting in the operating budget, which our total operating budget ranges from the $25 to $30 million a year range. So to have $60 million isn't going to be there. But let's say even if that money was sitting there, if we were to finance that out of the operating budget, that means that this year's taxpayers taking the entire burden of funding these projects that are going to be here for generations, right? These are projects that we're building that are going to be here for a long time. for the present and for the future. And so it's a little unfair to put that burden on people that are living here today. So what a bond does is it spreads out the cost of that over a long period of time. So the people that live here today, the people that may move here 10 or 20, 10 or 15 years from now, they're all sharing that cost. They get to enjoy the amenity, and they're sharing the cost of it. And, and just like a mortgage, a bond is they're tied to a time frame. We are looking at a 20-year debt service on the bond. So that means that it'll take us 20 years to pay that bond off. And
about how much would that cost me monthly, say?
So for the typical homeowner, it's about $13 a month. It would show up on your tax bill as an additional millage there. It would be $157 a year. So for the typical homeowner, that represents 2.4% of your total tax bill. So it's not bumping up your property tax a whole bunch. I think most people recognize the majority of your tax bill is the school system, and then DeKalb County, and then it's actually put it in perspective. It's less than you pay for your trash service. Significantly less than what you pay for your trash assessment on your tax bill.
And our taxes in Dunwoody are already pretty low.
We're the lowest in the county.
And I don't think people realize that $13 is not that much money compared to what other people are paying.
No, it's less than your Netflix subscription, right? So, or a couple of venti mochas or something like that. So it's really an investment in the future of the city. And the other benefit of doing it through a bond, if we were to try and save up that money, it would take us years and years and years to set aside money. And then it kind of goes back to the same issue I talked about with if we were to pay it out of the operating fund. You and I live in Dunwoody now, and for the next 10 years, the city would be taking a portion of our tax money and setting it aside for a project. Well, 10 years from now, things change. We might not live in Dunwoody anymore. So we've paid all these years into a fund that we never see the benefit of. Doing it through a bond, we also get those funds up front, right? And so we can build these projects today. So we don't have to wait 10 years to build them. Today's residents get to enjoy these amenities as well as future generations. So that's really why this is the overwhelmingly most common way that cities fund these projects. It makes the most sense. It's most equitable, and it gets projects built faster, and people get to enjoy them. So we're really excited about this. Last night, the city council voted to approve a resolution, and so just to be clear, we did not vote to issue bonds. We voted to put a referendum on the ballot this fall. We talked right at the start about Election Day. So this fall, November 7th, on Election Day, there will be a question on the ballot whether the citizens wish to approve a bond referendum for parks, green space, and trails. And ultimately, the citizens will decide. So I think there's really nothing more democratic than that. Listen, we've listened to the residents. We've heard that these projects are important to them. We figured out the most appropriate way to pay for it, and now we're saying, okay, you tell us this is what it's going to cost. You tell us, are you willing to do that? And it'll be up to the residents. And I think that's, again, the most equitable way to do it. And if the majority say yes, then we move forward.
Yep. I feel like we take a long time to make decisions in Dunwoody because of that, they're more of the right decision. It's not just willy-nilly start digging and figure it out on the way. We've been very conservative over the years, and this is different than normal, but my kids are 7 and 11, and if it's going to take 10 years to build these trails, they're barely going to get to use them at that point. And so, I'm down with it.
Absolutely. Yeah,
you got my vote. I can understand why people would vote against it, but you got my vote.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it, and it's going to be real important for the community to understand what it is that we're trying to do here. And but I do think personally, as because people tend to forget, I'm on the council, but I'm also a resident and a taxpayer in Dunwoody, and I think this is to me a really, really important investment in the future and present of our city. So it's something that I support wholeheartedly.
And it also leaves the money that was going to try to get spent on the potholes and that kind of thing. It still gives us money to do that, so there
as
part of the regular 20 million or whatever you said.
Yeah, so there's other there's other sources of money, of revenue. The other big source of money for capital projects is the SPLOST,
Mm-hmm.
which is that one penny tax. The special purpose local option sales tax is what SPLOST stands for, and that's the one penny tax that goes on everything you buy, other than food and medicine, is exempt from that. And but those are dedicated to specific projects. They're dedicated to public safety and transportation.
Mm-hmm.
So we really couldn't use SPLOST to build a park.
Right.
So we've got these great park properties. We've got these great plans in place. Um,
Connect them.
we need to build it out.
Yeah.
It's I think we owe it to our residents. We've gone through the process. We've come up with a great plan. We've got all the community input. We know what they want. And we owe it to them to take the next and most important step, and that's to actually build it. So
Yeah.
this bond will be critical in doing that. Like I said, SPLOST, we can't build parks with that. We can do roads and we can do police. But what this bond will also do is it'll give us a little freedom if there are projects on here that may have been previously like the Mount Vernon section already has funds allocated through SPLOST
Right.
to build. So that project's getting built one way or another. But what this does is by paying that for that with the bond money, we can do that immediately, and we can reallocate those funds to something else. So maybe we put it towards an intersection improvement or some other transportation project
Yeah.
that the city's identified as priority. So it gives us a lot of options to get more done.
And then the hotel motel tax too. What are the rules with that? Is that a perimeter area?
So so the hotel motel tax
Because I've heard that's gone way up. They were saying at the meeting last night.
So the hotel motel tax is it's an additional tax, a local tax for anyone that stays in the Dunwoody hotels,
Which isn't us,
and
which is great.
what's that?
Which is not us, so that's great.
Exactly.
Let
It's
people
paid
coming into the city pay the tax.
It's paid by visitors to the city, and so because it's paid by the visitors, we want to kind of reinvest the proceeds of that into things that promote tourism. So a portion of that goes to Discover Dunwoody, our Convention Visitors Bureau organization, and really that hotel motel tax funding will be used is going to be the primary funding method for those at that Ashford Dunwoody commuter trail. So we have a plan for a trail system, a lot of trail systems in the perimeter area. The primary focus right now is getting that Ashford Dunwoody. So basically from Hammond Drive all the way up to Mount Vernon, and the hotel motel tax will be a big part of funding that, as well as we have a great partnership with the PCID. Typically they will fund these types of projects 50-50 with the city. So that's just great to have such a strong organization and committed organization like that to partner with the city to get some of these projects done. So
that's what I was talking to Brent Walker about yesterday, is that, I grew up in Gwinnett, and what I knew of Dunwoody was perimeter mall. And so it's kind of our showpiece. I mean, we all live away from perimeter mall, but that is what people think of as Dunwoody. And so
absolutely.
It's nice to see that. Nice.
And there's so much going on in the perimeter area right now. It's so exciting. I mean, it's really one of the top economic engines in the whole Southeast, not just Dunwoody.
And it's a mall. Who would have thought a mall would be flourishing at this time?
It is one of
every other mall is like a dead zone. Like the one in Gwinnett is just, there's nothing there. And it's funny that that's what's flourishing still in our city. So
it is doing
pretty
great.
Lucky.
Yeah, we are very fortunate that mall is still very strong. And there's a lot of great things happening around the mall as well. High Street is scheduled to come online next year. That's going to be amazing. It's going to be a game changer. It's going to be like an Avalon right here in Dunwoody. And there's a lot of other exciting developments happening. Ashford Lane is reinvested into a lot of exciting things. That lawn area they have is awesome. I went there 2 weeks ago with my wife for dinner. We went to Hawkers and came out afterwards, and just what the thing that I loved is it was just people everywhere. It was, and that's what the focus of all these projects is we're trying to build. We've got a great community here. I mean, that's one thing I think people always say about Dunwoody is a sense of community, but that doesn't mean we can't build upon that and make it even greater. And that's really what we're trying to do, is create these gathering places for the community, so that we can make that even stronger. And it's so much fun to see it happening.
Yeah. Love it. That's probably a good stopping point right there.
I think it sounds good.
Yeah. Now that we've been talking for like 40 minutes, I'm going to have to divide these up. So maybe we'll do a trails podcast and then a bond podcast. But yeah, this is great information. I love talking with you. And yeah, you're going to have to come back on a couple months from now and give us another update.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd be happy to do it. I know it's been a while since the last time I was on. I definitely don't want to wait that long again. I think last time I was on, we were talking about Game of Thrones. So I'll tell you how long ago it was. So.
Well, this is a little easier. You can do it from home too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, thanks a lot, man.
All right. Appreciate it, Matt.